So for all the people who like to tech tithe, we have the square. And for anybody on live stream today, good morning, we have the PayPal button, which is round. I think, I don't know, I have to look at that. It might be oblong, rectangular. It's a geometrical figure. So, and hopefully add numerical figures to that, so our bank account goes up. So good morning, everybody, and just because I'm out of breath, let's start with the 3 catch mark breaths now, and water. Thank you very, very much. And since I forgot to do it last week, we have to breathe more this week. Anyway, so a nice deep breath in and some noise on the way out. So deep breath in. Do that 2 more times and let it relax you. Let it vibrate any negativity or angst off of you, and let it vibrate that feeling of love in you. So deep breath in. And one more really, really nice deep breath in. And on this last one, I remind us to breathe in as much as we can, and on the exhale, exhale every single molecule of air. So that next breath will be brand new completely. So deep breath in. This is yummy. So now for the fun part. So we're going to do our announcements. Yay! So today we're doing this talk. Tonight we're having, and I'll tell you about in a minute. Tonight we're doing for Diversity Night, the power of your other hand. So it's based on like automatic writing and getting in touch with the different aspects of yourself through using your other hand. For me, my dominant hand is my left hand for writing anyway. And discovering who's talking inside and how you can tap into those different aspects of yourself, be it from an inner child, be it from an ego self, meaning one of the ego selves inside, the critic, the performer, someone who wants to direct you, the director of your life. There's different factors, facets is what I was looking for, of who we are. So the power of your other hand helps you get in touch with those different facets. And there's been a lot of work done by a lot of different people in this one particular book Becky gave to me. That's the title of it. And I skimmed through and looked at some of their exercises. I've done this kind of stuff before. A lot of you guys may have done this kind of stuff before. So we're just going to play with that. And I'm not going to give you any of the questions until in the moment, so that there's no logical mind trying to think ahead of what to write, because it's really an in a moment thing. And there's no right or wrong thing. It's you communicating with you on a different level. So we're going to play with that tonight. Next week is Father's Day. So we're going to have just Father's Day as far as the talk of the father stuff. And for the nighttime diversity night, we're going to have a drum circle, correct? So we're going to be doing that. And that's going to be fun. The following week, you have a drum, you have a...
I don't know what the following week is, so if anybody has an idea or something that they would like to see done for diversity night, let me know today, preferably. Yes, ma'am? Ooh.
What, I didn't hear.
Play the game again?
Yeah. That was fun.
All right. Oh, thank you.
The game again.
Problem solved.
Coming back to a theater near you.
Okay, cool.
So that'll be on the following the Father's Day, whatever the math is on that. 25th. Yes, that's it. Golly.
Explain what the game is. We're looking at these two.
Okay, you guys explain. I mean, now that I've experienced it, I got it more. But one of the you go.
It's they call it tarot cards or Monopoly for the Soul. It really gives you, using images and text, to give you a window into now. You can ask questions, you can get insight, but it also taps into the collective mind of the group that really brings some wisdom, and it's a lot of fun. It's funny how, you know how you give input to somebody, have you ever given advice? It actually has cards set up to where if one's a plus sign or one's a minus sign, the plus sign means, you know, kinds of words of wisdom with words on it, and it gives people an opportunity to go deeper. But if it's a minus sign, it doesn't mean negative, it just means that you need to listen to that. So it's a lot of fun.
Which really stinks.
And even when, for one of the things I noticed that, so even though it came up negative, that meant it was really the lesson for them.
Minus.
Or minus sign.
Yes.
it's still, you still get a lesson because it still triggers stuff in you. So it was groovy, it's fun.
It was fun.
We had joy, we had fun. Became tangled. So that'll be on the 25th.
Right.
You want to do that?
Drum circle.
Want to say that?
Yes.
Because that was next. I was just navigating the 3D world.
Well, you took a big pause, so I wasn't sure where you were going.
Great.
Our typical drum circle that meets the second and fourth Tuesday, it's gonna be a little more special. This coming Tuesday, Fred's birthday is Saturday. He's actually turning 80. So the biggest gift we can give him is a big drum circle that he can run. So I'm gonna set the chairs up in here. It's a surprise for him. It's Tuesday from 6 to 7:30. We're gonna have a cake and coffee, and if you wanna add to the desserts, please bring something. But we'd love you to come. There'll be some extra drums, and we always have some tambourines and noisemakers here, so bring what you can and join the fun on Tuesday at 6.
Even if you don't know Fred, it's gonna be really
Oh,
fun.
it'll be a blast.
Oh,
You'll be
yeah.
blessed.
And if you don't know Fred, then you should
definitely
come,
come.
Yeah.
come meet him, because he's amazing.
Yeah, and it'll be fun. And last week I accidentally said it might be a potluck, so if you bring food, that's groovy too. Right? So that'll be this Tuesday, so it's only a couple days away, and it's kind of a secret, so and tell people all at the same time. So now, when is our next speed healing? I want to start advertising that.
July 15th.
So that's creeping up quickly as we just went through the calendar and saw how fast the 25th is going to be here. So July 15th is our speed healing. If you've never been to one of our speed healing events, it's really groovy. We have different modalities from like Reiki, tuning forks. Scott will do reflexology. We'll have the aroma room up. In the past, we've had cranial sacral work done. I'm not, okay, so she'll be back. So, and we do it 10 minutes a session, boom, 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 like speed dating. And it's kind of, this is Becky's birth child, and we've done it, this will be our third or fourth? Third official,
Third.
official, yeah.
Third, yeah.
And it's fun, man, it's neat. All the practitioners they're doing it for free, they're doing it as a giveaway, as a networking thing. And then at the end, they do it for themselves, and they go through the cycle with themselves and get the treat of all the different modalities. And it's like an hour, right? 6 stations, and you're doing 10 minutes at each station. So by the time you're done, you just had an hour of different kind of energy work, no heavy equipment operating afterwards. And there'll be snacks and things like that here. It's a fundraiser. Remember, it's a fundraiser too. So we'll have food and stuff like that. No, we won't, but we'll have something that you can buy.
He eats everything.
No, because at Love Yourself Day we did.
Yeah, we do, yeah.
But the idea of this is it's a fundraiser. I am rarely the one who comes up here and talks about our finances, but and guys, we're in like straits here, and I really use the word dire in need, but the thing is what it is. So these kind of events boost that. We're still negative $6,000 to our landlord. I think is what it is. Now we still want to create. Scott and I had a talk one day because I was being adamant about that positive creation, and we were bumping up against something in his own head that helped clarify something in me. He's like, yeah, but isn't the impetus of change the negative? I'm like, yes, sometimes there's a negative thing, or sometimes there's a thing that is different than what we want it to be as the impetus. But to get there, we must stay in that positive mind, stay in that positive energy, see it happening, know it's going to happen, believe collectively, and be on the same page. And yes, sometimes the impetus is coming from a place of lack, and we have to own that and realize all the lessons that we got from Abraham when they talk about lack is to realize that that's where we were, to let it go, and then to operate from that place of trust and flowing in abundance again. And that impetus to change is, yes, we're in a different place than we want to be, and to own it in a good way. So this is a fundraiser, and it's a really delightful, fun one. I'm so glad you created this. It's like, this is that part where I get to boost my friend up and let her stand in the limelight for a wonderful creation. That's what last week's talk was about. It's a lot easier for me to do it with you guys than my own self because I play those ego games. But when we do it for each other, and when it's a thing that shines the light so much, everybody leaves with a smile. Everybody has positive feedback every single time we've done it. So this is becoming a tradition for us. Spread the word. There's going to be 36 slots, correct?
Pre-registered and we're gonna
$35
get all that
bucks.
stuff up. We pretty much got all of the practitioners signed up. We actually had more practitioners than we had spots for this time, because word's getting out to them too. So when we get that settled, then I'll get the registration up, and it's $35 for an hour. You're never gonna get that. And it's gonna be really cool. Uh-huh.
I just joined a network that publishes events in the area. So
Okay.
So anytime you
Woo,
put
yes,
a-
all right, we'll get that up.
yeah,
Okay.
either event up or a flyer.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you.
And we have the marketing
This
party next
Saturday. It's oh, great minds, man. That's awesome. You want to say it?
This Saturday at 9:30, we do our pod marketing party, and this is a way to come and support the pod, getting its message out, while at the same time learning some tips and tools and strategies and ways to grow things like this. And if you're not good, if you have a laptop, bring a laptop. That's the best. But even if you just have a phone and you don't mind calling people that we love and inviting them to one of our events, you can do that too.
So 9:30
And we-
to 12, right?
Yes, and we do bring food. We bring snacks.
We do bring food to that.
Not just you.
That's why I'm always saying it. Go.
And if you don't feel like coming to a marketing event and you'd rather come to a learn to love yourself event, I'm doing a self-love emergence Friday night and Saturday next weekend at Heaven Sent, and there are flyers out there.
Cool.
And I do have to tell you, I did this, I was introduced to this new exercise, and personally, I'm somebody who doesn't like to get out of bed. I wake up kind of negative and kind of like, what's the sense, why bother? Once I'm up, it shifts. It's not like I'm depressed all the time, but I tend to wake up depressed. And I did this exercise by myself. And the next morning, my first thought was, I'm so glad to be alive.
Oh, wow.
So it works.
Yay.
Right on. Amen. So go do that. Yeah, there's all these different modalities of loving yourselves. Take advantage of the ones that are nearby and also supporting each other in the networking. Scott and I's workshop is the following weekend. And to promote myself, I keep forgetting to do that. My book is out there. So buy it. So we can make it more and create the vision, helping me create the vision. So that's something where the last 3 weeks I've forgotten. It's easy for me to tell you about Becky or you. So that's out there. I think we're done with announcements. Cool. So last week was standing in the limelight. And this week I went the complete opposite way, back to the darkness. And rarely do I do stuff from the Bible. And this week we're going to take a look at the 23rd Psalm in a different way. So you can pop that up there if you want. I'm sure it's all familiar to everybody. And we'll just leave that up there throughout. But I'm just going to read it. And just listen with your heart. And I'm going to invite us to get past that upbringing, to let go of the Bible. Remember, this is a poem. It's just a poem written by some guy named David. And look at all the titles and stuff that came with that, and then what they did with it, and what book they put it into, and how that book has uplifted us and also knocked the crap out of us. So let go of all that as we read this. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul, and leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, and my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Just breathe it in. And those words have offered serenity to boundless denominations of faith throughout time. It's why I picked this anyway, because even just as it is written, it's wonderful. It vibrates love. It vibrates peace, and it takes us into a certain place within ourselves. But there's also a place where we might have let it go because we got tired of our Judeo-Christian background. We might have let a lot of the Bible stuff go. We might not look at it anymore. And for this person, I'll just own some of my walk. I mean, Dale's doing this, and that's another thing to announce, is the class with Dale. On Thursdays, they did their first one. And it's the world religions class. So I walked through different religions. I wrote a lot of poems about walking through different religions. And one of the lines that I wrote is, I've been to Swamis, gurus, and Indian chiefs, asking them all to fulfill my beliefs. So it's like, as we all walk through that different walk, evolving how we're all evolving, losing whatever religion we're losing, bringing with us the magic of the things we learned. This is one of those things that has transcended across culturally to people, and they kind of bring it with them. So one of the things I said I wanted to do this week was kind of do a metaphysical twist on this. This is just my crutch for my hand. Yeah, so it's just a prop for this. I don't know why I like to do this, but it feels good, so whatever. But in understanding that, you know, as we talked last week about standing in the limelight and letting your light shine, or your limes if you like shiny limes, is to be able to also recognize the moments of darkness within our lives and know that it's an all and on purpose thing. That it's like, as I go through this different stages of life, you know, I've said before that, you know, we cannot ride the roller coaster down the whole time. That much euphoria will blow up our bodies. And who wants that? Who really wants that? It's like, I couldn't handle that. I went on a roller coaster with Armand. Hey, Armand, if you guys are looking, at SeaWorld a couple months ago. We went on 3 of them. And they progressively got worse or better, depending on which way you're looking at it. His little kid was better. My little kid was like, all right. And it's like, there was even a picture of it. And they're like, look at Mark looking all calm. I'm like, yeah, that's my Zen Rain Man face. But we all have those moments where coming out of that euphoria or coming down from like that limelight, like, I was just in the limelight. I just stood, I performed in front of thousands of people. I had a standing ovation. I'm high, I'm so high, I'm so euphoric right now. And then I don't have a gig for another month. And that feeling starts waning. And then I start almost feeling like I'm down or depressed. And we got to understand that in that emotional body, that this is back to dolphin medicine or the waves, the ebb and flow of life, that it's all part of it too. Apathy is the greatest gift to being overwhelmed. So, and sometimes people are like, what? I'm like, yeah, man, it's a word, it's there, it's in our language, it's in our body. If we feel it, it's real. We feel sometimes apathetic, and we may think this is a dark moment. Then I'm saying, how do you know that's not the moment right before light? It's always darkest before the dawn scenario. I coined a phrase a year or so ago in a talk called the closer to the light, the bigger the shadow. And in truly understanding that where we are in our own evolvement and where we are in our own awakening, that for you, I was talking with someone recently and sharing that, yeah, that ignorance is bliss. And that as we awaken or more veils become removed and we see clearer and more, it's impossible to go back into the dark room and shut the door and pretend it's not there, because now you know. That's what the forbidden fruit thing was all about. The tree of knowledge and biting of the tree of knowledge, that you can no longer claim ignorance. Well, the same thing happens now as we go back into that dark and go, we got to remember that in this darkness, from the philosophy of the closer to the light, the bigger the shadow, that something must be really big. Something really big must be going on in you if you're starting to experience some big shadows in your life. To understand and acknowledge the cataclysmic growth that's about to happen or is happening for you, for us, individually, collectively, on our small community, and in that broader perspective with people around us, that we're like, wow, there is a paradigm shift happening. There is more and more people waking up. And it's easy for us to focus on the darkness of the valley and forget about the mountain and just see all the darkness in humanity. And I'm saying, yeah, let's go there on purpose now. Let's go camp out in the valley. But I'll be okay. Because even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For he, they, she, all that is, I am with me. And to remember this, and Mark, I'm talking to me, number one, because I have my valleys. Right now, my valley is financial. That's my last pitfall in this worry world. I don't have a worry word about anything else in my life, but that's okay. That's the shadow that I'm in. Yours may be different. You may be filthy rich and have a worry woe in a different energy, a different level. So whatever that shadow is, when we get in that, thank God I have this other part of me to breathe into and to remember that I will fear no evil, for I, he, she, all that is with me. I am here now. It's my only solace that's helped me in my times of woe. But when we look into the other aspects of it, and Margie and I have known each other for so long that we've done so many different kind of workshops and stuff together. But Lazarus used to teach the aspect of jumping into the emotional pool and going into the deep end. And Hinga, the bird, and Hinga spiritually teaches us that they dive deepest. They were able to pierce the water and dive really deep to get food. That's why they get so wet and have to hang out there and air dry. But their skin and the oils all are created so that they can do that. Well, what they're teaching us to do is to dive into the deepest realms of our self. And that means sometimes even to the deepest realms of our darkness. But we have perceived darkness as evil. Well, it says, but even though I walk through the valley of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Well, what's the rod and the staff? We've broken this down. I did this a few years ago when I did the rod and staff talk. Because I've got abused with that line in my life, and a lot of people have. It's like spare the rod, spoil the child is what I was referring to. And it's like, but wait a minute, in logic, in the real use of a rod, is to keep the sheep from going astray. It's not to beat them. They'll want to beat the sheep. That is their commodity. They can't beat that animal over and over again. It will kill it and ruin it, and then they won't make money off of it. That's not what the rod was for. It had a big old hook on him and everything. It was to guide and keep them in line. Just like even with a horse thing, whatever you call that crop, it's not to beat the horse, it's to tap it. It's a training mechanism. There's riders in different places that have misunderstood the use of that tool. But in that one lesson, spare the rod, spoil the child, we were all taught that that rod was meant to knock the crap out of us when we got off track. No. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me, because I know that within me, because I am the God, I am the Lord, I am the shepherd within myself, that those mechanisms within me that I have set up inside help guide me. Help restoreth my soul when I remember that everything is prepared for me, even the table prepared for me in the presence of mine enemies. And I would think mine enemies are out there, and they're not. They're the mine enemies, and the table is to sit with me in all those cells, even the ones I perceive as dark, even the ones that I think are evil. And I was saying something playfully to someone, I think this morning, what's the opposite of evil? Live. And how the dynamics of that word, in English anyway, it's like, and even since a little kid, I'm like, well, evil is not so scary when you turn it around. And that was when I was a little boy, I came up with that little line. And I never really bought into the evil thing, because maybe I knew that it was just living backwards. And that is our personal hell. That is the darkest moment in our life, is when we forget to live. When we forget that their mountain is right there. And sometimes it's overwhelming. It's hot, it's bright, it's shiny. I'm allowed to go into the shade. And back to the doing it on purpose. So now I've got these dark thoughts, right? I've got fear, I've got doubt, I've got insecurities, I've got, sometimes I just don't like people, whatever thought that you want to come into yourself, and you think that of yourself as evil. And I'm going to tell you that in that moment, it's not about being evil. It's about not being present. That if we got present in the moment with our faith and with all that we knew was in that limelight, then that shadow and that shade and that darkness would all of a sudden seem different. That we'd be able to hang out into the dark parts and know that they're just as sacred. Everything is sacred. Everything is sacred all the time. So even my dark, shadowy thoughts are okay because they're guiding me to a deeper part of myself that's going to broaden my being in a deeper way. And I asked for it. Because the line is also in here. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. Now, let's remove the he and put I. I make myself lie down in green pastures. I lead myself to still waters. I give myself that gift of placidity when I remember that I'm surrendering to the peace within, just like the songs we sing. When I look into each other's eyes. You know, I did a funeral last week, and one of the things I wrote is that when people cross over and that heaven seems so far, far away that it seems hard for us to reconnect with them, to just grab a set of eyes, and there you'll find heaven. That's where you'll find God. And if somebody's lost and looking, I'll send them to a mirror. And when I'm lost and looking, I got to go back to the mirror. And then if I'm in my darkest day and feeling really sad and say all the, I always call it the uncola stuff, the 7-Up stuff, you know, unloved, unwanted, unholy, unworthy. And if they're all online at one time, go look in the mirror too. That person needs to be loved, man. There's no one gets thrown overboard. It's like I've been talking with a lot of different people here and there, and it's like the thing that hurts my heart the most is when we forget who we are, even me. When we have this dark moment in the valley and we think ourselves now as a failure, as unworthy of even talking about the light, because who the hell am I to talk about the light? I'm stuck in the valley of the shadow of death. But that's what these words were written for, to bring that peace, to give us that consolence of knowing that when I am in those moments, when I believe in myself, remember my faith, and remember all that, I know that I'm not really in the darkness anyway. It's just it's another aspect of the light. Matter of fact, the shadow is telling me that the light is so grand. And if I walked through that shadow for a longer period of time, again, back to my first statement of, wow, that must really mean I am really, really close to the light, and to revel in that part. It's like, can you celebrate how close to the light you are while you're in your deepest morose moment? It's like, but I've been doing this kind of work for years, and I thought things would get better, and I feel like I never learned a thing, and I'm sadder. And I'm like, I'm telling you, no, you're going deeper and purging more. You're purging more, purging more, purging more. It's just like, you know, when we do this breath work at the beginning of the talk, and at the very end, I say, listen, exhale every single ounce of your breath. That is what dolphin medicine is teaching us all the time, because they have that ability. But at the same time, let's just go to the medicine of it. Let's just go to the logistics of it. Let's pretend we're all respiratory therapists. And they know that when we don't breathe all the way, we're not cleaning out the lower part of our lungs. We're not giving it a chance to let it all go. So it stays in there and it festers. So it's just the same with all this other stuff. I'm saying breathe into every aspect all the way down into the fiber of your being, and then exhale it all too. And watch what happens. You'll realize that you're not that far off from the light. You're right there. It's all taught to us. We see the science of it in eclipses, and the cycles of the sun and the moon, and when we're in full and when we're in new, and all the different shades. And golly, man, just look at the faces of the moon. You know, there's certain things in life where I'll go, if you never learned anything else and just watch this, there's millions of them that if we just had that one thing. So if we just had the phases of the moon and looked within and saw that the cycles of light and dark don't mean death, because look, there it goes, well, there it went, oh, there did it again. And we don't judge it. But at the same time, we can connect to it and go, wow. I was telling someone the other day, I'm like, man, I was having a mushy day. I was feeling melancholic. I'm like, what the devil's going on? went out at night and it was a full moon. I'm like, aha. Thank you, Sel, for helping me recognize part of what was going on and realizing that yin energy was being pulled on. So maybe if there's something unexpressed within, say if we were a little bit out of balance through that month, and then that focal point of intense yin energy happens, it's going to be like salve. It's going to draw those feelings out of you. It's going to draw that energy out of you so that you can be back in balance, because the moon is always in balance. It goes through its cycles just like we do, and we are part of the biorhythm of the earth, of the moon, of the tides, of the planets, da 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 da. Well, this is a biorhythm. This poem is a biorhythm. It's saying, it's like, look at all the cyclic things that he's talking about in this poem. It's like, this happens, then this happens, and you do this for me, then you do that for me. And sometimes I'm walking here, and sometimes I'm walking there, but I know I'm okay. And that the valley of the shadow of death is what life, this 3D world is, because we forgot. We forgot about the light. Back to that, remember the light with the Gloria and the little girl in the book that remembers that she was a light being that came here on purpose to spread the light, but she forgot. Well, every single one of us forgot. And sometimes we stay stuck in the valley. Well, look at the valley, man. If you're going to be stuck there, then check it out and live there for a while, because it's beautiful. There are things that grow in the valley that won't grow on top of the sunlight, on top of the mountain in the sunlight. You're never going to find a mushroom in the sunlight. It's just not going to happen. That's not where they grow. They thrive in the shadow and in the shade. Now, the seed got planted maybe in the light, and that's all part of it in the balance, but enjoy what's in the shade, even if it's, Margie's going to like this because we used to do this. It's like, if you're going to do it, just then wallow. If you're going to wallow in it, wallow and do it on purpose. And just, even if you have to sit on your bed and go wallow, 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 wallow. And tap into the deepest part of it. If you're feeling shitty, then see how shitty you can feel. Because you're only going to get to so yucky inside before you pop out the other way and start laughing at your own pain, laughing at your own idea of what was bringing you so down in the first place. So that in that concept and understanding, we can be in the valley in the shadow multiple times in one day, multiple times in 1 hour. It's getting stuck there that disturbs us, not experiencing it. And we can have whole weeks of mountains and whole weeks of shadows and still let it be what it is. It's like, what was the song we sang? We let it be. And sometimes we don't want to let it be. Sometimes we don't want to let it be, being more mindful of the people there, to remember those folks too. And those parts that won't just let it be. I got to fix it. I got to change it. I got to do it right now. Listen, change is going to happen no matter what. Resistance to change is what discombobulates up. But forcing it will discombobulate you just as much, man. Allow the flow, man. It's like there's dams that are built for a reason to serve us as a society, but there's nothing within us that ever needs to be dammed up, ever. But just let it flow, and the body knows how to regulate it. It's got all these killer valves and things that just work on their own. It knows how to do it. We're the ones that interrupt the flow by shutting things off and shutting things down. Oh, I'm feeling something morose and sad. Shut it up. And the body's like, what are you doing? I got a lot of flowing happening behind me, and there's a lot of stuff there. It's not just grief. You better open the gates. You better open the dam. You better open the lock, because we're going to blow up. The bricks can only take so much pressure. Quit thinking this is bad. Just let it flow through. And if by some chance in the reservoir something fell in and contaminated that a little bit, you still got to let it flow to get out so that it can be pure again and clean. So damming it up serves nothing, even when we're in the deepest part of our sadness, grief, darkness, even if we think evil. Okay, we've all had the thought about pushing somebody down the stairs. We've said it jokingly to our friends, man, I could have just pushed you down those stairs. Who the hell is that inside, right? Is that evil? Am I satanic? Am I going to start killing babies and worshiping the devil? No, it's just a part of us. If you act on those parts of you, we need to interrupt you from society. because here's no filters. But to own that happens, we all have a dark thought. So maybe it's not as dark as wanting to push someone down, because I call that the Denny deranged part of us. But what if it's like, oh, I really just want to give that person what's for? Still just as evil, because you're not living in the light. It's just as much as pushing them down the stairs. Don't let your 3D world, even though I know we're in a social world where they'll lock you up, I think there should be more rules about lock up and what people do with this thing than what they've done with these things sometimes. It's all good. But the point is to own that part of yourself as well. Own the darkness within you. Own every single aspect of it. But know that it's a part of the paradigm and the duality, and that you really are just in the light. So breathe into it. Know that it's part of you. Know that thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over is that creator reality line. That we already are the anointed ones. We are the Christed ones. We have been anointed with all the blessings of everything that's in this world, and we know on that metaphysical level how to do it. Our cup is running over when we remember. Sometimes it's running over whether we remember it or not. We just didn't look to recognize it. And we had to sit back and go, wow, I have abundance here, I have abundance here, I have abundance here, I have abundance here. And in that nanosecond, all of a sudden, it's like at the beginning of the talk, it was dark. And then Philip turned the light on, and it gradually built up. And it's kind of neat, right? Well, every time we have that acknowledgement of being grateful for what's right in front of us, all of a sudden we realize, I was the one blocking the light. I was the one that stood in front of it and cast the shadow, and then was only looking at the shadow. I didn't realize I was looking so much at the shadow that I thought I was completely engulfed in the valley of darkness of death, and I didn't realize it was my shadow. There's the light. Oh man, all I had to do was turn around. There wasn't some big journey out of the darkness. I didn't have to flog myself. I didn't have to sacrifice any goats or anything, or any of my friends along the way. Because sometimes the scapegoat has been the closest ones to us, because we didn't know any other way out of the dark, so we had to blame them, step on their back to crawl out, and then their faces in the mud, and they're like, what was that about? And you're like, I'm sorry, I thought I was stuck in the dark. I didn't realize all I had to do was turn around. We're standing right on the line of both. Where do you want to put your focus? What do you want to experience in life? And allow yourself to do this. And see the wonder of both. I've written some great poems out of my sadness, and there's been some awesome songs. Everybody here loves music. There's been some awesome songs written from the pains of someone's soul and heart, from their darkest, deepest, dreadful, morose moments. And then we sing and hear these songs, and it taps us into it, and it triggers something, and then we start leaking, and we feel better. And it's all good. So listen to this poem in a different way now. Do this twist for yourself. Sing it to yourself. Say it to yourself. Change the words that need to be changed for you, that vibrate inside with you without the God stuff, if that gets on you, and the he and that patriarchal stuff. If those words vibrate perfectly for you, then I remind you to bring it back into your life and walk with it. It's like the Serenity Prayer. It's one of those timeless things that transcends across the board, because the words are so innocent and so benign. But it's to honor that part of us and to know that I will fear no evil, because it's just the opposite of live, and I will never feel fear. I'm going to talk about it. Thank you.